There are players Cristiano Ronaldo respected, players he acknowledged, players he competed against on the highest stages and shook hands with afterward and meant it. Gerard Pique was not one of those players. Pique was something different, something that operated on a frequency that Ronaldo found impossible to ignore, not because Pique was faster or stronger or more dangerous on a football pitch. He was none of those things. But because Pique understood something about Cristiano Ronaldo that most opponents never figured out. He understood that the one thing Ronaldo could not stand, the one thing that got deeper under his skin than any tackle or any defeat, was being laughed at. And for nearly a decade, Gerard Pique laughed, loudly, publicly, deliberately, with a smile on his face and a microphone in his hand. This is the story of the rivalry that Ronaldo could never quite win. Not because he lost on the pitch, but because Pique found a battlefield where Ronaldo's speed and power and discipline meant nothing at all. To understand what made this specific, you first have to understand who each of these men was. Cristiano Ronaldo arrived at Real Madrid from Manchester United in 2009 for what was then a world record fee of £80 million. He was 24 years old. He was already one of the best players on the planet, and he came to Madrid with a singular, consuming ambition to be the undisputed greatest footballer in the world. Not one of the greatest. The greatest. Everything about how Ronaldo operated reflected that ambition. The training regime, the diet, the statistics he kept in his head. The way he celebrated goals, not just with joy, but with a kind of controlled fury, as if each one was another piece of evidence in a case he was constantly building on his own behalf. Ronaldo was not just trying to win matches, he was trying to win an argument, the argument about who the best player alive was, and standing directly in his way, not just on the pitch but in press conferences, in celebrations, in social media posts, was a Barcelona defender with a very particular gift for saying the wrong thing at the exact right moment. Gerard Pique had been Ronaldo's teammate at Manchester United between 2004 and 2008. He knew what Ronaldo was. He knew how seriously Ronaldo took himself. He knew exactly which buttons existed, and he had spent years developing a talent for finding them and pressing them in public. That combination, Pique's instinct for provocation, Ronaldo's absolute inability to brush it off, was the engine of everything that followed. The first major shot was fired not with a tackle or a foul, but with a sentence. June 2015. Barcelona had just won the treble. La Liga, Copa del Rey, Champions League, all three trophies in a single season, one of the greatest achievements in the history of club football. The celebrations at Camp Nou were enormous, 80,000 people, fireworks, players on an open-top bus, the kind of night that clubs dream about for decades. And Pique, standing in front of that crowd at the microphone, said something that had nothing to do with Barcelona's football, their tactics, their coach or their players. He looked at the crowd and said, "We are the best team in the world. Thank you to Kevin Roldan. It all started with you." Kevin Roldan was a Colombian singer, an unknown, relatively obscure performer who had one claim to relevance in the football world. He had performed at Cristiano Ronaldo's 30th birthday party. The timing of that party was the problem. It had taken place on the night of February 7th, 2015, hours after Real Madrid had been beaten 4-0 by Atletico Madrid at the Vicente Calderón. One of the most humiliating results in the club's recent history. Players had celebrated into the night. Photos had leaked. The Spanish press had torn Madrid apart for the lack of professionalism, and Madrid's title challenge had subsequently collapsed. Barcelona won the league, won the cup, won Europe. Pique had been waiting for this moment since February. He had planned the line, saved it, held on to it for 4 months until the biggest possible stage presented itself. I had that line saved since March of that year, he later admitted. I was more motivated by being able to say it than by winning the Champions League itself. Read that sentence again. A player who had just won the treble, one of the rarest achievements in football, said the highlight of his season was being able to publicly humiliate Cristiano Ronaldo. Ronaldo said nothing publicly in response. He did not have to. Everyone who knew him understood that silence of that kind from Ronaldo was not peace. It was storage. What made Pique uniquely infuriating to Ronaldo was not any single incident, it was the consistency, the pattern, the way it never stopped. El Clásico after El Clásico, season after season, Pique found new ways to make Ronaldo the punchline. When Barcelona beat Real Madrid, he posted on social media. When Madrid made mistakes, he commented. When referees made decisions that went against Barcelona, he invoked Ronaldo's name. There was an entire media war conducted largely through Pique's Twitter account. Ronaldo's teammates responded. Ronaldo's sister, Katia Aveiro, fired back. Press conferences became battlegrounds. And Pique's position throughout all of it was the same, relaxed, smiling, enjoying himself immensely. Because Pique had identified something that defenders who tried to rough Ronaldo up, who fouled him, who closed him down with 3 men at a time, none of them had found. He had found that Ronaldo had an ego the size of the Bernabeu, and that ego had no defense against mockery. Physical pressure. Ronaldo trained for 6 hours a day to handle physical pressure. Tactical systems designed to stop him. He had seen every system, he had solutions for all of them, but a Barcelona defender standing at a microphone in front of 80,000 people thanking a Colombian singer for helping end his title challenge. There was no training session that prepared you for that. Then came August 2017, the Spanish Super Cup, second leg at Camp Nou. Ronaldo had come on as a substitute and scored a stunning solo goal, controlling the ball, beating defenders, finishing with precision. One of the great individual goals of his career. He tore his shirt off and held it up to the Barcelona fans in the same gesture Messi had used against Real Madrid fans the previous season, a direct response, a deliberate mirror. Look at me, I am here. I score here too. He was immediately booked for removing his shirt, then moments later shown a second yellow, and then a straight red for what the referee judged to be a dive after minimal contact. As Ronaldo walked off the pitch, he did something that captured the entire dynamic between him and this club perfectly. He pushed the referee, not violently, but he pushed him. Lost control for 1 second in front of the Camp Nou cameras. The Spanish Football Federation gave him a 5-game ban, 1 for the red card, 4 for the physical altercation with the official. Madrid were furious. Ronaldo was furious. And somewhere in Barcelona, Gerard Pique was smiling. Because Ronaldo, the most disciplined, most physically prepared, most mentally focused athlete in football, had walked into Camp Nou and let the occasion get to him. Again. That was the pattern. That was always the pattern. And Pique had not even been directly involved in the incident. He did not need to be. What Pepe was to Messi with his boots and his elbows and his deliberate physical aggression, Pique was to Ronaldo with a microphone and a perfectly timed sentence. Both methods found the same thing, a limit, a place where the footballer ended and the human being began. Pepe found Messi's limit with a stomp on a hand. Pique found Ronaldo's limit with a joke about a birthday party. The difference was this: Messi's limit was physical, a line he drew about what could be done to his body without consequence. Ronaldo's limit was psychological, a line about how the world perceived him, about the narrative, about the story, about whether people were laughing or applauding. Pepe crossed a physical line once. Pique crossed a psychological line every single time he found a microphone. And Ronaldo, for all his extraordinary gifts, for all his discipline and dedication and statistical dominance, never found a way to make him stop, not until he left Spain entirely. The summer of 2018 changed everything, but before the ending, there was one final chapter on Spanish soil, one last encounter between Ronaldo and Pique that managed to compress the entire decade of their rivalry into a single match, a match that had nothing to do with El Clásico, nothing to do with Barcelona or Real Madrid, but everything to do with the two of them, Russia. June 15th, 2018, the FIFA World Cup group stage. Portugal versus Spain. Ronaldo wearing the red of Portugal, Pique wearing the red of Spain. No club colours, no Bernabeu, no Camp Nou, just two men who had spent 9 years making each other miserable, now standing on opposite sides of a World Cup pitch. What happened in the next 88 minutes was one of the most dramatic individual performances the World Cup had ever seen. Ronaldo scored in the 4th minute from the penalty spot. Spain fought back to lead 3-2. And then, in the 88th minute, Ronaldo spun Gerard Pique, won a free kick from the tangle of their bodies, stood over the ball with the composure of a man who had been preparing for this moment his entire career, and bent a shot around the wall and under the crossbar. 3-3. Hat-trick. The oldest player in World Cup history to score a hat-trick. Portugal had drawn with Spain. Ronaldo had done it to Pique's face on the biggest international stage that existed in the final minute. And what did Pique do afterward? He walked to the post-match cameras, still processing a result that had seen Spain squander a lead in injury time, and said what he always said. Cristiano has a propensity to dive. The penalty he won was soft. We had more chances than them, and they scored 3 goals from 3 shots. Even then, even after that, even after 88 minutes of Ronaldo dismantling Spain with his bare hands in a World Cup group game, Pique found the microphone, found the angle, found the word propensity that turned Ronaldo's hat-trick into a conversation about simulation rather than brilliance. That was who Pique was. That was the thing Ronaldo could never solve. 6 weeks later, Ronaldo left Spain. The announcement came in July 2018, Real Madrid, Juventus, €112 million, 9 years, 4 Champions League titles, 451 goals in 438 matches. The official statement from Real Madrid called him the greatest player in the history of the club. Florentino Perez spoke warmly. The Bernabeu had been his home, but Ronaldo himself told the story differently when he reflected on the departure later. I felt it inside the club, especially from the president, that they no longer considered me the same way as at the start, he said. The president looked at me through eyes that didn't want to say the same thing, as if I was no longer indispensable. That was the official reason, the one he gave publicly. But there was a broader picture: 9 years in Spain, 9 years of El Clasico, 9 years of Pique finding new ways to make headlines at his expense, 9 years of a rivalry that Ronaldo had dominated statistically, the goals, the trophies, the individual awards, but had never fully won in the way that mattered to him most. He had never made Pique stop talking, and in the summer of 2018 he left the country where Pique lived. What happened next told you something important. After Ronaldo left for Juventus, Pique lost his primary target. The fuel that had powered a decade of press conference comedy and social media digs and perfectly timed microphone moments disappeared to Turin. Pique was still Pique, still vocal, still provocative. But without Ronaldo in La Liga, without the El Clasico backdrop, without the direct line between them, something changed. The war required two sides, and one side had gone. Ronaldo, for his part, thrived in Italy. He won Serie A, he scored prolifically. He finally won the Champions League in his first season at Juventus, a claim he could already make. But doing it with a different club on different soil proved something to himself that 9 years at Real Madrid had never quite resolved. The shadow of Pique, of the laughter, of the Kevin Roldan line, of the diving accusations, did not follow him to Turin. Distance had done what presence could not. So, what was this rivalry, really? Not a footballing one. That is the easy mistake to make. To look at the El Clasico record, to count the goals and the assists and the trophies and declare a winner on points. On the pitch, Ronaldo's record against Barcelona was extraordinary. He scored at the Nou Camp, he won Champions Leagues while Pique's Barcelona faltered. He was present for some of the greatest club football the world had seen. But the rivalry between Ronaldo and Pique was never conducted on the pitch. It was conducted in the space between the final whistle and the next morning's newspaper, in press conference rooms, in celebration speeches in front of 80,000 people, in 4-word sentences about Colombian singers, in one carefully chosen adjective, propensity, deployed after a World Cup hat-trick. Pique understood something that very few people in football ever understood about Cristiano Ronaldo. He understood that Ronaldo needed to be taken seriously, not respected. He had more respect than anyone, not feared. Defenders feared him everywhere, but taken seriously in a particular way, viewed with the gravity that matched his own assessment of himself. Pique refused to do that. For 9 years he treated Ronaldo not as the most dangerous footballer alive, which he was, but as the straight man in a joke that Pique was constantly writing and rewriting, and every time Ronaldo responded with a goal, Pique found a new joke, and every time Ronaldo tried to ignore him, Pique found a bigger microphone. There is a version of this story where Ronaldo wins, where you add up the Ballon d'Or awards and the Champions League titles and the goal tallies and declare the rivalry settled in his favour. But that is not how Ronaldo experienced it. Ronaldo experienced it as a decade-long argument with a man who refused to take him as seriously as he took himself, who laughed at moments Ronaldo had suffered through, who turned Ronaldo's worst nights into punchlines and his best nights into controversies about diving. And when Ronaldo finally left Spain, when he took his goals and his trophies and his 9 years of dominance and moved to a different country entirely, Pique was still there, still in Barcelona, still at the microphone, still smiling. That was the thing Ronaldo could not forgive. Not the Kevin Roldan line, not the diving comments, not any single moment. The smile, the ease of it. The way Pique moved through their rivalry without the weight that Ronaldo carried every single day, the obsessive dedication, the need to be undeniably the best, the constant proving. Pique played football too, won trophies too, but he also seemed to enjoy the whole thing in a way that Ronaldo, for all his success, for all his records, for all the extraordinary things he achieved in Spain, never quite managed. And in football, in rivalry, in the long game between two men, that ease is its own kind of power. Pique had it. Ronaldo never did. That was why he hated him more than anyone.